Bangalore, or Bengaluru, in South India is one of the world's fastest growing cities. It's a global hub for information technology, attracting some of the biggest companies from around the world. Over the past 30 years, the size of the city has exploded. Today it's home to around 7 million people. Being a part of a global city creates many opportunities, but also challenges. I asked Rajiv Gowda from the Indian Institute of Management how Bangalore had changed since he was born.
Bangalore has changed dramatically since then. It was a sleepy pensioners' paradise, a pleasant garden city, and today it's a global, information technology hub. It's a city that has grown many times its original size. So where I once was able to walk or take a bicycle all around the city, today you are filled with roads, the roads filled with cars and all kinds of buses and traffic.
In the 1880s, the old city of Bangalore had a population of only 62,000, servicing the British Army base, where 90,000 people lived. The distinct areas of the old city and the cantonment can be seen on old maps. This was the time when Winston Churchill was stationed in Bangalore. What is now the Bangalore Club was the British residence. In his memoirs, Churchill talked of the wonders of Bangalore at that time.
The climate of Bangalore at more than 3,000 feet above sea level is excellent. Although the sun strikes with torrid power, the nights except in the hottest months are cool and fresh. The roses of Europe in innumerable large pots attain the highest perfection of fragrance and colour.
What happened before the IT industry came in the 1980s? I asked Guru Kasina, who worked in the IT business for 15 years.
Before the IT industry came, there were lots of public sector units in Bangalore. The heavy electricals, the machine tools, they all had their factories here, maybe 5 or 6 of them, and other than that there wasn't much happening, so it was called a pensioner's paradise. That when you retired from your service, you just came and settled in Bangalore because the weather is lovely.
So how did Bangalore change from a sleepy retirement town with some public industries to a global technology hub it is today? I asked Narendra Pani of the National Institute of Advanced Studies and a historian of Bangalore what helped to create the IT boom.
Well, Bangalore's had a history of English education, right, going back to the colonial era, where English education was extended to the poor as well. Along with that, it also has a history of engineering education or science education in general, so which mixed together to form a kind of a manpower base that the IT revolution needed. So once the technology was available to tap this manpower from Bangalore itself, but that was the start of the IT boom from the 1980s.
Professor Pani explained to me, in Bangalore, from the time of Mysore Maharajas to the present, everybody learns English at school. In Karnataka as a whole, there are over 70 engineering colleges and some really top science universities and research centres. Some of this history is celebrated in the Science and Technology Museum, named after the famous Dewan from the 1920s, Dr. M. Vishveshvarya. Today, Bangalore is full of global companies from Subway and McDonald's to Microsoft and IBM, but it's the homegrown IT companies such as Infosys and Wipro that present Bangalore's global success. Infosys and Wipro had revenues of around $7 billion each last year. They employ tens of thousands of people, have offices all over the world, and have state-of-the-art campuses in Bangalore and nearby Mysore. Narendra Pani explained to me how this growth took place and the problems this has caused.
It's the growth of one segment on the periphery of the city, and it hasn't taken the rest of the city along with it necessarily. So you have parts of the city that haven't caught up, parts of the city that are in fact quite badly off. Also, the way the growth took place was largely unplanned. So you had the IT sector growing in the south of the city, the airport coming up in the north of the city. There was no connection between the places where the people working in the IT industry would live. So you had traffic going all across the city to reach the IT centers, which created a complete chaos in traffic.
What have been the consequences of this rapid growth? Guru explained.
cost of land has gone up significantly, and you need the people who live here, the middle class or the upper class, still need support in terms of cheap labor for the housekeeping, maintenance and other low-end jobs. So now you're having many slums actually come up in different parts of the city. So that's a part of the urbanization, land price hike, and not an inability to find decent housing.
The result is that there are now two Bangalores, the rich and the poor. Some who travel in the comfort of their own cars on flyovers or in the air-conditioned metro, yet most live in crowded streets below the flyovers, where rickshaws compete with cows and people on foot. Anita Guru Murphy from IT for Change explained how IT money has influenced the way people live, shop and interact.
There was one thing that India was that was quintessential to India, that was the bazaar, that was the ubiquitous Indian bazaar everywhere. And that was a place which would equalize. So you would be rubbing shoulders, with people from different walks of life, different kinds of people. But what the IT money has done is that it has diverted people, who would walk on the street and look at a little trinket here and buy something there and bargain endlessly to these malls. And if they can afford it, then of course they can hang out in the malls. Malls are spaces which are gated, and in some sense, the kind of symbolism associated with these malls automatically prevents people of certain classes from entering them. Many of us oftentimes wonder what would be simmering beneath this kind of inequity that is so characteristic of the city now.
Next I asked Leo Saldana of the Environmental Support Group what he thought were some of the downsides of Bangalore's rapid growth as a global city.
What people generally forget is Bangalore is a city which may not be limited by land, but it is definitely limited by water. It imports water from 100 kilometers away, which involves a lot of energy input. And the fact that despite that we have about half the city which is without proper drinking water, assured drinking water, is not a good statement about the quality of life in a global city. Secondly, I think there is a very strong, a very huge divide between people who gain from this globalization and those who don't. And evidence shows that there are more people now who are poor in Bangalore and unable to survive than there were maybe a decade ago. The third major impact is that for those who live inside the city, the quality of life has deteriorated because of multiple factors, but particularly given the high rates of congestion in traffic. So more people spend time on the road than with their families. Finally, I think to grow up in Bangalore was great fun when I was a kid. Now you can't even play on the streets. So that I feel to take away the right to play from a child and the right to walk from everyone else is a great tragedy the city is living through.
These are certainly big challenges. Finally, I asked Rajiv Gowda about the positive aspects of Bangalore as a global city.
Bangalore has also changed in another way. There's a sense of possibility of having arrived on the global map, of being part of an economy that is changing the way India is perceived in the world. We're now known for our brains, for our knowledge workers, for our intellectual capabilities, rather than for just being a poor country or something like that. Yeah, so it's been fascinating to observe this change, and it's also been good to be part of it.